At last, we have finally gotten the gameplay trailer for DLC 4 Reckoning for Black Ops 6 Zombies, which is releasing next week on the 7th of August. Now, of course, we're just going to be talking about zombie stuff coming in Season 5, but you can see the full roadmap on screen right now if you're interested in any of the multiplayer and Warzone stuff, but I will leave a link in the description to Call of Duty's full blog post that we're going to be running through if you want to learn more about those specific things. But let's jump into the zombie stuff because this is getting very spicy. So we have our first image in the blog that you can see where there is a computer glitching in the background with the Janus logo. You've got some of the arrows in the background as well. There's a load of zombies crawling towards the team. You see Weaver at the top, which is parachuting down through the roof. So it does seem like we are going to be able to parachute into this map and during the map. Now, I'm not sure if it's going to start straight from spawn. I know people are suggesting this could be a possible infill sequence that we see in the trailer, but I'm not sure how that would make sense narrative-wise because obviously we were walking directly into the towers at the ending of Shattered Vale, so unless some time has passed, I'm not sure why we would then be parachuting down from above. But I'm going to explain the parachutes a little bit in a second, but this is really going to feel like an Outbreak open world style map, even though it is a round-based experience. And you can also see there is the Gobblegum machine on the left, and then there is some text next to the Dark Ether arrow, which I think says research or stranger. I'm not exactly sure, it's a little bit blurry. We then have another image which shows the Pack-a-Punch area, which we got a teaser for before, with this huge generator, and we get a look at the new wonder weapon, which I'll come onto in a second. It looks very epic, but Treyarch say, looming over the once sleepy settlement of Liberty Falls, the Project Janus headquarters, 3 Adfees, known locally as Janus Towers, as there are 3 of them, now teeters on the verge of collapse. Constructed between Redacted and Redacted, I guess this is just referring to the town and mansion. This vast and vertical facility is separated into blank, with Ethereum slowly being released into blank, enormous reactors blank, limitless power, but at a price. Again, I kind of don't like when they redact things in these blogs, and often we don't end up ever figuring out all of them. The towers' systems appear to be critically damaged, and total failure is imminent. Stabilizing the ether reactors seems to be the initial overriding goal before even greater threats must be faced. So this is going to be the first thing you are going to have to reckon with, literally, as you jump into the map, and I think this is going to help with the finale aspect of this map, because even though, yes, we are jumping ship very quickly to Black Ops 7 Zombies literally right after it releases in a few months, I think by them adding the threat of Liberty Falls getting fully destroyed and encapsulated into the Dark Ether when these towers melt down is really going to make the Easter egg feel intense. Are they going to put certain steps on a time limit? You would assume so. I don't know what other way they could do it to make it feel realistic, but I'm guessing that'll be the first thing you need to do on the map. You need to try and figure out how to stabilize these reactors, but I assume during the Easter egg quest they're going to start melting down again, maybe when you fight the boss or whatever, and you'll probably uncover Pack-a-Punch in the process of trying to stabilize them. We then have Day of Reckoning, your comms team handlers, assuming no comms interference, except Peck, Ravenov, and Strauss to provide valuable support, with Raptor 1 always skybound to exfil should the situation go even more sideways. So the entire gang is still here, even though these characters have had barely any role to play in the storyline because it's such an overbloated cast. I'm hoping they get more of a role to play on this map, but I'm not really expecting anything because we are at the finale. It's come so soon because they've pumped out these maps at an insane pace, and they are going to be juggling so much on this map. They have so much to handle because they go on to say, but what of Dr. Pericles Panos, who sacrificed Alpha Team to return himself from the Dark Ether, and Security Chief John Blanchard, last seen pursuing Panos in the towers. So we heard about this in the intel for Shattered Vale, so Panos and Blanchard are both going to be involved on this map. Maybe even Panos could be at the boss fight if he's been empowered by the Shadowsmiths or something like that. I'm not exactly sure. However, there's a much more likely suspect for being the boss fight, which is probably Zykov and or Sam, but I'll come onto that in a bit. The blog then says that then there's both Sam and Director Richtofen. As you can see, there's just way too much going on in this map to satisfyingly tie up all of these loose ends. I really don't know how they're going to pull this off, but I'll come onto the Zykov stuff in a little second. It says Reckoning Initial Recon Tour, so we get a look here and we see these portals. Now, we were speculating before that they were teleporters, but they actually aren't. This seems to be what boosts you into the air in order to parachute. So you go through these sort of chambers. It does seem to be the same Janus technology that they've been using for the teleporters, or what Requiem and Omega had before. However, it does seem to be modified to just catapult you into the air and then you parachute down, and that's going to be how you can traverse between the different towers. Now, you can see here the main facility. You have a Gobblegum machine in the back, you have Quick Revive in the back as well, and then you've got this main chamber. It says from the moment you step into the now now debris-strewn lobby, it soon becomes clear that the towers have seen better days. Laboratories, computing and research offices, and more secretive chambers may be accessed by more novel means of transportation. Redacted parachutes, redacted anti-gravity personnel launchers to redacted, ether vents redacted with low gravity redacted, robot assembly redacted, attunement accelerator redacted. So that's the attunement accelerator that you can see by the Pack-a-Punch area. That looks very, very cool. There's lots of cool things in various different depictions in sci-fi that look like this, that has the laser going through it, and it does seem like this will activate some kind of anti-gravity, and it probably has to do with these portal technologies as well. It says further exploratory contents have been lost via an unanticipated data intrusion, and all tower blueprint records expunged. Now we have a look at Uber Klaus. Automaton alert, new elite enemy. So Mecha Klaus has been in the files of the game for a very long time. We were speculating he would probably be on this map, and it does seem to be the case. We saw him within the teasers before. Now he does seem to be a new version of the Panzer Soldat essentially, but he is a new enemy type at the same time, and he's going to be an elite. So it does seem like from the teaser trailer before, Klaus has been getting mass manufactured at the Janus facility. Obviously, even though he got sent into the dark ether in Toten, he is just an artificial intelligence, so he's been able to be mass produced over and over again. It says the secret research and development programs of Project Janus appears to have been more evolved than originally thought, developing many more robots in the Klaus assembly lab than first anticipated. The greatest of these threats is the Uber Klaus, a murderous automaton encased in a toughened, bulky exoskeleton that maintains a cocky attitude, lethal efficiency, and super strength, all directed at newly programmed threats. So yeah, he has these glowing bolts of electricity on each of his shoulders, so I'm wondering if that's going to function similar to the Panzer variant that we saw under Eisendrache, for example, that could shoot the Divinium vials at you. Will that have some sort of magnetic effect where he can pull you towards, similar to the Panzer's grapple? And his core is probably going to be his weak point, and then he has the rocket arms as well, and he looks very, very cool. He looks like something out of Warhammer. I'm really excited to see him in action, but he does seem to be a lot more complicated than just a Panzer reskin. And you get another look at him here. You've got some DNA computers on the side as well. Weaver is down on the ground, and then the description says enemy takedown tactics are unknown at this point, though combat is likely to be focused on disrupting the Uber Klaus form's heavy shielding and avoiding its melee attacks. Once the exoskeleton is broken, the Uber Klaus core will eject, revealing its secondary deadly form. So yeah, it seems like you have to then shoot the orange chamber in the middle that's glowing, and then the Uber Klaus core increases in agility, sacrificing defenses for less lumbering locomotion and flying capabilities thanks to rocket-powered hover boots. It continues to employ energy-based arm-mounted launchers, avoid at all costs, while its defensive Tesla coil shield can prevent your incoming attacks. So like we saw in the teaser, he is going to be able to hover, so this is going to be so creepy and so scary. Obviously prior Panzers could as well, but is he going to be able to fly a lot higher than that? It does seem like he has some anti-gravity abilities with these things on his shoulders, but will that also be able to act as an attack as opposed to just a means of transportation for him? I'm not exactly sure, but I'm really glad we're seeing a new enemy type on this map. Even if it is similar to old ones, it's not exactly just a copy and paste, and we're going to be seeing yet another, because we're going to be seeing the Red Mist Descendants robots dispatched. Emergency enforcement protocols may have already been triggered across all three towers, resulting in periodic robot battalions known as Kommando Klaus, homing in on perceived intruders. Preceded by a strange red mist, these automated enemies have had their higher functions disconnected and self-destruct sequences activated and should be dispatched with swift and focused aggression. Mechanical threats are only one of the expected adversaries. Reports of zombified Project Janus security and administrative personnel, the remains of scientists, hazmat crews, and even experimental mutations are confirmed to be active within the towers. So yes, we're going to be seeing robot zombies, cyborg zombies yet again, and this is really cool because we've been talking a lot about zero-based Maxis on the channel. I actually have a future video coming out talking about how he may be back in Black Ops 7 Zombies, and of course he had his own cybernetic zombies in Zero Base, and this is kind of paying homage to it in a little way that Janus has their own technology similar to that. And obviously these are all based on Klaus's AI, so they do look similar to him, and they will be able to fly and then explode and detonate. It looks very cool. This sight of all of the dead ones on the ground looks crazy. These things look like they're going to be so scary, buzzing towards you like flies within the factory where Klaus has been getting mass produced. And yes, Klaus will be back, of course. Will he be voicing all of these as well as his regular Uber Klaus self? I'm not exactly sure, but he's going to have funny dialogue once again because the blog did say he's going to have his sense of humor, and of course course, Klaus was so funny on Maladatoran, so I'm really excited to see that. And now we have a look at the new wonder weapon, the Gorgifex. So finally, we're getting a new wonder weapon on this map. I'm so happy about that. We've gotten too many returning ones in this game, and I really love the design for this one. It almost looks like Prima Materia is the ammunition for it as well. So you can see on this image here, it's literally alive. I love the wonder weapons that are alive, like the Apothecan's Servants, or the one we even have on Terminus. These are the coolest wonder weapons to me. And it does seem like you have to put Prima Materia literally inside it. And we even got a short little clip of gameplay that they posted on Twitter that you can see in the background of this. And it has a really cool reload animation, and then it does seem to shoot this charged orbed shot that then explodes. I do wonder if there's going to be elemental variants of this, or is this going to be the only version? Of course, it's very similar to the wonder weapons we had on Zombies in Spaceland. Literally exactly the same, but less cartoony and gimmicky. This one being a literal alive being from the dark ether. So epic. I love the glowingness inside. This is such a cool wonder weapon, and in the background of the image they posted of it, you can see again the accelerator with the laser going through, and it seems to be absorbing and pulling all of the zombies and debris from the outside within it. And there does seem to be some sort of ethereum mist to the right of this image. I can't really tell exactly what that is from this, but within the little gameplay they posted of it, we actually see the Forsaken is back. You can see his orb in the background within the cube chamber we trapped him in on none other than the Forsaken map himself. Now, we of course posted a video speculating that none other than Kazimir Zykov would be back on this map, but we were thinking before he was trapped inside the orb of the Sam AI, but it seems like there are actually two orbs. So the Sam AI is a massive one, and whilst it may have been based on similar technology, the Forsaken is still within his original orb, it seems, and he's even held up by the exact same wires at the side. So I really think Zykov is probably going to be a boss fight on this map, but the thing is, they are setting up so many different potential bosses, such as Panos, such as the Shadowsmith, such as the Sam AI, and now the Forsaken. So who on earth is going to be the one we actually end up fighting? Now, even though the Forsaken is within his original orb and not inside the Sam AI himself, I do think that the mainframes are probably connected, and his technology has probably still been used to power the Sam AI, which explains why the Sea Tower intel on Terminus talks about a German woman sometimes sounding like a girl and an angry Russian sounding like they're arguing, because that was probably the two consciousnesses of either the real Samantha Maxis or the Sam AI, as well as Zykov / the Forsaken fighting and arguing amongst themselves. So I think all the mainframes are connected and the technology is all linked. So either way, Zykov is back. Who could have seen that coming? That is absolutely wild. I've been making so many speculation videos about the Reckoning, and it's good that this big one is in fact coming true. Not exactly in the way I predicted, but coming true nevertheless. So many of these theories have been so crazy. I always knew, at least a few wouldn't be, but it's good that the big one is out of the way. But let's get back to the wonder weapon itself. It says the latest intel all but confirms Janus Towers may be hiding a new and grotesquely potent wonder weapon known as the Gorgifex. Partly charred, experimentation notes discovered on microfish indicate the existence of a bioetheric armament, combining fungal, floral, and insectile traits to deliver precise impact damage and gravity-defying disruption in close quarters. Glowing membranes on the weapon show hints of motion and circulation under the surface. The weapon seems to pulse and breathe, with a beating central heart-like organ that pumps energy through the weapon, which does seem to kind of be Prima Materia, like I said. Due to the saturation of the dark ether and other unknown energies, the weapon is said to emit faint psychic vibrations, which I guess is probably that blue turquoisey mist that you can see on the right of the image when it's reloading. Then the blog says, but how does it work? And you can see some better shots of many different angles of the weapon and the reload, and as you can see, it really does seem to look like one of the Prima Materia pods, so it does seem to be some sort of fungal slug-like weapon. So it says the Gorgifex fires what appears to be a slug of ether-based energy. On impact, this inflicts a dense area of direct damage with a tight area of effect. The damage of impact varies depending on whether the user charges the attack before release. Shortly after impact, energy from a fully charged blast dissipates outwards, inflicting damage in a wide area. The dissipation seems to cause a focused temporary gravitational anomaly, catching and incapacitating enemies to float at just above head height. More research is required, but it appears 2 additional variations have been uncovered. So I guess that answers my question of if there's going to be more elemental variants of this weapon. There's going to be 2 more, it does seem, and I can't wait to see them in action. Of course, I'll have guides for all of them when it actually releases, but I want to talk a little bit about what the storyline for this weapon is, because obviously it's just a charged blast, gameplay wise it doesn't seem that complicated, although the design and aesthetic is really cool. But this has to surely be something to do with Kortifex, because Kortifex has been mentioned in in a lot of the intel for the game, and his name is very similar to Kortifex, being Gorgifex. Now this seems to be some sort of Janus technology merged with a real life being, and we know from Vanguard Zombies that Kortifex did something horrible to his offspring that he had with Syraxis, because he never wanted to have a child with her, as they could commit patricide that he did to his own father. Essentially, him having offspring could be a threat to him. And it's interesting because in the background of the image that they show, there's blood writing that says hell. I think it says the hop to hell, maybe. It's kind of hard to say. That could be referring to the gravity. But anyways, we never really knew what happened to Kortifex's child. Could this be Kortifex's child that Janus retrieved from the Dark Ether and then merged him with technology to make this weapon? That's very well possible, because Kortifex also turned the Decimator, which was another entity from the Dark Ether, into a literal shield we saw on Terra Maledicta. And his aesthetic, with it being all gooey, looks very similar to the aesthetic of Gorgifex. So could he have done the same to his own child as what he did to the Decimator? Or could this potentially even be Kortifex himself turned into a weapon after he died? Maybe like some DNA from him was found by Janus, or maybe, since there's going to be 2 other additional variants of it, Kortifex could be one of the other variants, so we could get some closure about what's happened to him, considering he keeps being mentioned in the intel. That is very well possible. Now, of course, we were speculating for a long time that maybe Mr. Peaks was what happened to his son, but because Vanguard Zombies was unpopular, I don't know if they're going to go with that, and I think they probably want Mr. Peaks to not really have a concrete answer and leave that open to suggestions. And maybe even if they initially intended for that to be the case, I don't think it's going to be the case anymore, and Mr. Peaks is going to be back as a field upgrade on this weapon. That'll come onto it in a second. So if Kortifex's son does end up being the Gorgifex, then it will rule out Mr. Peaks being Kortifex's son, and then maybe he's even going to get new additional lore on this map, considering he's going to be heavily involved. But I'll come onto that in a second, like I said. So regarding the main quest, so it's going to be going live obviously at the start of Season 5 on August 7th at 9 AM Pacific time, and if you complete the main quest, you obtain the Blood, Sweat and Gears operator skin for Grey that you can see on screen, which looks very, very cool. She's holding literally Klaus's head as a charm, which looks awesome, which is this intriguing weapon charm they mention. You get multiple calling cards and a sizable XP reward. Players who complete the main quest prior to the mid-season director mode will earn a unique calling card variant, like usual. Now, the thing is, she is actually holding these purple Ethereum vials that we saw from the intro of Modern Warfare Zombies that we know, of course, the characters end up dying in Urzikstan, and that's yet to be explained. So is this non-canon and is just paying homage to that for a skin, or are they finally going to explain how everything ties into Modern Warfare Zombies and how the characters die and end up there? I don't know, because like I was saying before, there's so many pieces for them to explain on this map. It feels so over-bloated. I don't know how they're going to fit it in without everything just feeling so rushed and clunky and messy. So we'll have to see if this is canon or not, and why would they have even created the vials already? You would have thought this would be created as, or at least closer to them dying, which doesn't happen until 1996, which is a few years out. So we're going to have to see how that plays out, unless there's some sort of epilogue or something like that after the main Easter egg cutscene, or maybe a super Easter egg could get added in Season 6, because interestingly enough, there's no new perk in this season, which makes absolutely no sense, because, you know, we've been speculating what perk is it going to be, because in the files of the game, there's been suggestions that potentially we could see Mule Kick, maybe even Widow's Wine, maybe Tombstone, and yet we've not seen any new perk for this season. So it makes me think they're probably going to have a Season 6, and maybe they'll drop a new perk then, or are they just saving these perks for Black Ops 7 instead? Now let's get into the new features for the map. So unstable gravity. Due to the experiments conducted in Redacted, this chamber may experience fluctuating gravity, with projectile weaponry and movement affected during these intermittent gravitic anomalies. So this is so cool. Just absolutely look at all the zombies flying and you flying as well. This is the creativity and unique features, map specific, that I want to see back in Zombies. Zombies nowadays, of course, with the unified systems, has less unique flair, but this will set it apart. Even just the little wall running instances we saw on, for example, the Eisendrache and Shadows of Evil really were fun, and this is going to be awesome. It's going to, of course, be very similar to what we saw on Moon back in the day, but even crazier. So we then have rapid transportation teleporters. Using failsafe experimentation with etheric energy, Project Janus's scientists have developed a means of instantly transporting organic and inorganic material between points with almost no fatalities reported. These devices work in attuned pairs, one acting as a transmitter and another as a receiver. So I think this is the portals we saw earlier. So there are going to be teleporters. Ignore what I said earlier on in the video. But it sounds like they're going to function quite differently to teleporters we've seen before. We'll have to see how it functions actually in-game. Then we have the rapid transportation anti-gravity personnel launchers. So this is what I was on about, being able to propel yourself in the air between the different cooling towers. A novel and likely completely safe means of transport. Used in pairs, the launchers create a focused tunnel of gravity ability allowing the user the illusion of flight and the ability to jump from one location, such as a tower balcony or overlook, to another. So this is going to make traversal around the map great, because we see from the overview in the little short snippet of gameplay when they're parachuting down, the map is huge because it's not just the cooling towers, it's also all of the facilities below, and I think being able to bounce between them and the teleporters as well will make it feel not as large as it actually is, because it's going to be so seamless to move between, and it's going to feel like Revelations, for example, just bouncing between the different islands. We also have the caster turret, which you can see an image for on screen, which basically creates these ethereum fungus crystals and spores similar to the ones we saw in the Dark Ether section on the Nexus in the tomb. The cognitive and adaptive system for target elimination and reinforcement turret with armament and control panel components is a joint venture between the Project Janus Cognitive Science and Security Technology divisions. This wall-mounted automated cannon unleashes devastatingly powerful barrages of etheric energy in quick bursts to neutralize threats. Update the turret with redacted nano-energy technology and redacted. Then we have information on the lore and intel. Now in the epicenter of what could be a cataclysmic Dark Ether event, there's no time like the present to gather lore relating to the reckoning in the form of audio logs, documents, and artifacts discovered throughout the map. So yeah, I'm really excited for this map's intel, because like I was saying before, they have to do a lot to try and figure out how they do the narrative and wrap everything up, because there's so many loose ends. And according to Alix, from the files of the game, it seems like there's going to be 7 documents, 13 audio logs, and 5 artifacts, so a bit more than the other maps apart from Terminus, which had the most. I think that's around about a good amount of intel to have, and of course I'll be breaking down all of the storyline stuff with many videos once the map drops. Of course that's subject to change as well, we'll have to see when it actually releases. Then we have additional gameplay content, so Grief is going to be available for the Reckoning, which is of course how we found out the map name itself from the audio logs. I'm not going to go through that because you know what Grief is all about, but you can see the image they posted for it looks very cool, because you can see the Project Janus logo as a statue, and that is so epic with the solar system or whatever it's supposed to be. And then you can see the Juggernog machine in the back, which you could actually see in the background of the last teaser they posted where we saw Mecha Klaus. I forgot to mention it in the little video I did on it. Then director mode is of course going to be there, and we get another shot of these robot zombies flying towards you. That looks horrifying, so scary. It kind of reminds me, I guess these robots are going to be similar and mixed between the explosive enemies that we saw in Chaos, or of course in Shattered Veil, and the ones we saw in Mauer Totans, since they can explode, but then they're also going to fly towards you, so they're also going to be similar to the Parasite, so it's going to be a good blend of things. Then Team Cranked is going to be returning mid-season as an LTM. I'm not going to go through that, you know what that's all about. I have a guide on the channel which you can reference, of course, back when it releases. The combat bow is going to get added as a support score streak, you know what that's all about. I don't need to really explain that to you, but this is the kicker. Mr. Peaks is coming as a field upgrade. Now, as you know, he was found in the files a while ago, and we did a whole video speculating about how he may be back on Shattered Veil and what the storyline implications could be. Unfortunately, he then ends up being on the map and is coming on this one instead. I'm not sure if he was planned for that at some point, but ended up getting saved for this one. But anyways, look how creepy this looks, and you can see in the background of the image you've got a crafting table, and then you've got all of these Dark Ether roots growing throughout, and you've got these giant fungus, spores, and prima materia. It looks so cool, and like I said before, this is the epicenter of a climactic event, which is probably Janus Towers is going to get sucked into the Dark Ether to lead to the original characters returning for Black Ops 7 Zombies. All hell is going to break loose. But let's get into the field upgrade. So summon Mr. Peaks to our reality to create chaos. They love the word chaos. With reintegrating chaos, hopefully we'll actually get some new proper chaos lore on here and finally explain what the hell is the difference between Ethereum and Prima Materia. Are they one and the same? Who knows? As the deadly and distracting bunny busts out the moves and bashes undead brains to a raving disco beat. So that's going to be how he functions. It's going to be kind of like a monkey bomb, I guess, especially the upgraded monkey bombs where he could do the dubstep beat that would attract zombies towards and then explode. Once Mr. Peaks arrives in your hands, throw his hairy helper into the fray, and he gleefully attracts normal and special enemies and attacks any undead with his wandering radius, savaging foes until they explode in a shower of bright confetti. So I'm so excited to see him in action. Of course, we had Mr. Peaks as a temporary field upgrade in the second Outbreak quest, but not to this extent. But I'm wondering, are they going to give him new storyline and lore if he's coming as a field upgrade, or is it just going to be for gameplay purposes? I hope he does get more lore, but they are making Mr. Peaks not seem as creepy with him. Obviously, he's always been involved in like the disco, for example, on Mauer Toten. From his get-go, he's always been gimmicky, but he's kind of scary and also funny at the same time with his disco theme. I do want to see more lore with him, and I'm hoping that this confetti animation that he does is very creepy at the same time, and they have that good blend between fun and creepy, and it's perfectly meshed together. But let's get into his augments. So his major augments will be dance party, Mr. Peaks becomes the life of the party, attracting nearby zombies to him before he detonates an ether pulse to thin out the crowd considerably. So this is just like how he functioned in Outbreak Quest 2. Arcane Fury, Mr. Peaks has become a master of the elements, enhancing his regular damage with a random ammo mod with an augment from that ammo mod. Apex Hunter, Mr. Peaks focuses all attacks on the strongest nearby enemy other than bosses. For example, Uber Klaus would be targeted over regular foes with increased damage inflicted. Minor augments, Social Butterfly, increase Mr. Peaks' attraction radius. Mr. Peaks flavor, Mr. Peaks is good to have around mystery box locations, get a free box spin if you are near one during activation. That's a really cool one. Party Animal, increase Mr. Peaks' dance duration. So I really like all of these augments. They're fun and different as well. I felt with a lot of the other things, the augments, some of them have been quite similar, or you don't really know which one to pick, or there's just a standout one. With this one, I can see that it's having different uses depending on your playstyle. Let me know in the comments down below which ones you want to pick and what do you think of the range in all of these. Yeah, I just really hope they give him some lore, especially because of course we've been theorizing he could have been keeping Samuel Richthofen's son, safe in the Dark Ether as an ethereal orb, considering the note he had in Outbreak's intel that you could collect saying he's keeping him safe in a dark place, and considering of course Richthofen wants to restore his family with the Sentinel artifact, that's what his goal is on this map. His family could return on this map, and now we suddenly have Mr. Peaks as a field upgrade. There could be a potential connection between the two here that's going to be unveiled in the Easter egg. And then lastly, we have information on the Reckoning Zombies leaderboard event. So compete for top placement in the Reckoning leaderboard event, play a zombies match on the Reckoning map to enter the leaderboard and rack up eliminations to earn leaderboard points, helping you to climb to a higher position. Special elite and boss enemies earn more points to seek out the toughest enemies and take them out. The higher your placement on the Reckoning event leaderboard, the greater the rewards at the end of the event. Keep slaying to earn leaderboard points and complete event challenges to unlock rewards when completed. So very similar to the one we had before. Not sure how interested I am in that, to be honest, but I'm mainly interested in the storyline for this map. Of course, they have so much to wrap up. The storyline has just been weird so far because I feel like they just have not cohesively put everything together. So they have a lot of legwork to do with the Reckoning to really make it stand out and satisfyingly conclude everything, but at the same time set up Black Ops 7 Zombies in a satisfying way with the original characters back. So before I conclude this video, I first want to go through the little bit of gameplay we got in the Season 5 trailer. Now, it was literally only like 10 seconds long, unfortunately, so I am expecting them to do a full-on Zombies exclusive trailer in the next few days or so, or maybe even early next week before the map drops, and of course I'll break that down fully when it does indeed release. But I really think the Zombies trailer, the full one, should be releasing alongside the blog. It should release beforehand, so you know you have a few days to speculate before the blog then explains everything, and I feel like this few seconds of trailer doesn't really do much to properly set up the map and the threat of it, because it's meant to be a finale, and to me the gameplay teaser doesn't feel finale. It doesn't feel that grand and epic. However, I do think the teasers they were doing with the found footage style of editing did a really good job with that. So the little clips first start off with some death animations, and I like the different scientist costumes they have. I really like how with all of the Black Ops 6 Zombies maps they've really put effort in trying to make all of the zombie models feel distinct and unique. And then you see a Janus security person here as well. Now of course in the teasers before we saw some NPCs. Now I don't know if the NPCs will actually be on this map. I don't think so. I think that was just done for teaser purposes, similar to the ones we saw, for example, with Liberty Falls, with Miller's family as a child. And then it cuts to this shot where we see the people parachuting down. You've got all of these flames, and then you can see all of the towers from above. You've got what looks like landing pads for helicopters, and you have a sphere on the right, and you've got loads of satellites, so you're definitely probably going to use some of those satellites to maybe try and communicate with people. Then you get a really good look at the towers, and you can see the Ethereum blue parts within them, and you can see some of them are exploding. I wonder if you can dive right into the towers themselves, but to me this really does prove that Liberty Falls was meant to be an Outbreak experience, because this looks exactly like Outbreak. I really do think they sectioned them off into different points of interest and made them into round-based experiences at one point in time, probably because of Modern Warfare Zombies' development. But, you know, I've been speculating that the Black Ops 7 Zombies transit-esque launch map could be a large version of Liberty Falls, so maybe it's going to be safe for that instead, because in the background, for example, you can see this tunnel and this cave, and that looks like playable space. I don't know if you can go in it on this map, or will it be safe for the future for this Black Ops 7 Zombies open world large round-based experience potentially. And you know, you've even got the tunnel in the background as well that we know connects to the town and stuff like that, and you can see all of the facilities below. The map looks absolutely humongous. How much is going to be playable space though, I'm not exactly sure. It's kind of hard to see on the top, but there does seem to be oil on top of the left landing pad, and there's all this scaffolding as well, so it does look like it was still being built, or are they just stairs? It kind of just looks like scaffolding, but they might be stairs so you can manually go up, but that'll be very tedious and slow. And the map is going to be set at dusk, it looks like. So of course a lot of people complained about Liberty Falls' lighting in day, so they've gone for dusk vibes for this one. I think it works okay, but it doesn't scream, you know, chaotic finale. I think they should have gone for maybe, you know, a fully dark ether looking map, to be honest. Like, it's just fully infected the area and there's dark ether vortexes and storm clouds in the sky. I think that would have been a much better aesthetic, because this does look, you know, exactly like Warzone looking at this shot. The next shot then shows inside. We see some more of the laboratory and scientist zombies, as well as one of the military security personnel looking people. There's a painting in the background, and then there's some blood text on the background saying mutant research, so I'm guessing that's to do with the wonder weapon, probably, and that's what they've been researching for that. And then we see another shot, and again, this looks exactly like Warzone. You've got people parachuting down, you've got fire everywhere. The lighting as well is exactly like Warzone, and then we get a look at the D13 sector, or whatever it's called, that shoots these discs out. I know before the wonder weapon was revealed, people were speculating this could actually be it, but obviously not. We see in the background, you know, you've got these shattered images, you've got a static TV screen, and then you can also see a warbie of the GS-45 there. Is that implying this will probably be near spawn, or even the spawn itself? I'm not sure. You know, maybe you'll spawn in parachuting down, or maybe you'll spawn in the facility already and the parachutes are just going to be used to jump between them. I'm not exactly sure. Then we see this other shot where it's shooting the disc itself, bouncing off of them, and you've got all this shattered glass and stuff like that, and obviously you're literally going to be able to parachute down through the shattered glass and the holes in the buildings, like I said before. Then we see Mecha Klaus in action, and then we see one of these people, the dolphin, diving backwards in front of one of these teleporter portals, and there's a load of fire. That seems to be a common theme of this. Then we see Mecha Klaus on fire, and then it jumps to Warzone stuff that we don't care about. So yeah, Mecha Klaus's design looks very, very cool. And let me talk about the logo of the Reckoning, because obviously it was revealed the other day, but some people pointed out in the comment section that probably the reason why it's on fire is twofold. Firstly, of course, the towers themselves are on fire and melting down, so that's probably why, but also Panos, his mysterious benefactor, said in the intel of Shattered Veil that he needed to burn for it with his body and soul, so basically sacrifice himself for this greater cause, probably the Shadow Smiths or something like that. So it's probably got something to do with that. So Panos could be some sort of fire being in the Easter egg or something like that. I really don't know who's going to be the boss, because literally there's so many candidates, but yeah, we're going to have to see. That's everything I've been able to take out of all of this, but have I missed anything? Have I gotten anything incorrect? Let me know in the comments below, and let me know, are you excited for this map? I'm really excited to see how they wrap up all of the storyline stuff. I just have a little faith it's going to be adequately done, because there's just way too much going on. I can't really foreshadow how it's all going to play out, but hopefully I'm pleasantly surprised. I'm sure the gameplay will be very fun. I think the anti-grav stuff especially is going to be awesome, and the wonder weapon looks really, really fun as well. So yeah, hopefully it's just a really fun all-round experience, and then we'll probably jump into the Black Ops 7 Zombies reveal, you know, a couple weeks after that, when the full Black Ops 7 reveal happens. So there's going to be lots of content on the channel very soon. But anyways, thank you for watching the video. Make sure to subscribe if you're not here for latest and greatest Call of Duty news information. So anyways, thank you for watching, and bye.